and go.
Hey, welcome everybody. It's the SCB Steelers Podcast presented by DEK Roofing Incorporated of South Florida. And we are very, very pleased to be part of the Variety Sports Network. And of course, the show originates from the Bradshaw Bourbon Studio. You know, today was just going to be a show about what the hell happened in Cleveland, this, that, the other. And all of a sudden, a little announcement came down from the Steelers today that seems to have gotten everybody pretty excited.
It was like 5:30 in the morning, man. I wasn't even awake. I'm
right.
Like, how did I miss this by 17 minutes? Jesus.
One Mr. Matthew Canada has been relieved of his duties. And yes, I just said duties. And oh, man, I'm telling you, what a day. We are going to dive into all of it. You're going to get all kinds of different opinions, and we'll look ahead to what this means, look back on it, all that stuff. Hello to everybody jumping in on the chat. Hi, Jen. Hi, Burner.
Hi, Burner. Hi, Jen.
And hello to everybody listening. Hello to those watching live, just maybe not commenting. Melvin, if you're out there, I'm sorry. I owe you a phone call. My daughter's airplane came in late today. My apologies.
Celebration, bitches.
It really is. I now, is this accurate? I didn't think it was, but the Steelers have not made such a move during the season since 1946.
41.
Is that what it was? 41?
41.
That's what was tweeted today. Yeah.
Yeah. I could have swore they got rid of somebody at one point in the 80s during the season, but I guess not.
The closest thing I can think of, and it was awful when he did it, was Cowher relieving
Ray Sherman, right?
Ray Sherman of his play calling duties with about 6 games left.
But he kept him on staff.
He kept him on staff.
Yeah.
Coordinate the offense, but he was calling the offensive plays himself.
That's right.
And things got even worse.
Yeah. So I mean,
oh boy,
this is such uncharted territory for us, and I think it's going to be fascinating to see where things go. But like I said, we've got the show to talk about that. A lot of great stuff, and let me just hit you guys up with a couple of yes or no questions. And I admit, I think it takes on, because of what happened today, these answers may have changed a little bit. Scarps, yes or no, the Steelers make the playoffs?
Ooh, I'm going to say yes. And do I need an explanation?
Not yet. I'll come back to it.
Yes.
Ian, the starting quarterback for the Pittsburgh Steelers.
I don't get to answer the same question.
No, shut up, Ian.
All right.
The starting quarterback for the Pittsburgh Steelers in 2025 will be
2025. Someone not on the roster right now.
Okay, fair enough. And,
probably somebody in college.
Probably somebody in college. Okay, very good. And Ben, do you expect to see Kenny Pickett perform better than he has? Yes or no?
Better. God,
all right. Let's exactly.
Better than last week, certainly. But last week was the low point of his career as a Pittsburgh Steeler in my mind. It was his worst game.
How much of that do you chalk up to the fact that that's a pretty damn good defense?
That's part of it. But the other part of it is just that I don't think he believed in what he was being asked to do. I think he was going through progressions in the order that his coach told him to go through, but he's also doing that stupid spin move he does where he spins into pressure and gets sacked.
Yeah.
So, it isn't all just that. And he does not want to throw the ball on a crossing route to a wide open wide receiver for an easy touchdown. I don't understand it. I don't get it. It's like it's like he's ignoring it. He's not even seeing the guy. He's not looking that direction.
Ian is yeah. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Ben.
I think some of that is just the inflexibility that I think was built into Canada's offense. So if he keeps doing it, then I'm wrong. And it's not so much the inflexibility issue. It's the fact that Kenny can't see, or he's got happy feet or something in there. I don't know.
Ian, do you think he is just overthinking at this point?
Jen's asking a good question.
Yeah, that is a good question, Jen.
Yeah.
We need to
we
come back
will
to that.
address it in a moment. Yep.
I think, as we've talked about on the show before, that they just coach the aggressiveness out of him, that he takes the snap, looks down the field, but isn't even really looking to move a safety with his eyes or whatever. He's looking to move the linebacker's back so he can check it down. And like, he's not, he's either staring down one receiver and just throwing it to that guy, or he's staring at a guy, and if he feels like it's too long, just checking it down immediately. Like, there's no progression that he's going through. It's look at one guy and then go to your check down.
It reminds me of Scarp's favorite quarterback, Mason Rudolph.
Scarps, would you like to reply to that?
No, I'm not even going to give Ben the satisfaction.
He knows I'm right.
Right. I do want to come back to Scarps. I asked him flat out, are they going to make the playoffs? And you said yes. Scarps, give me your reasoning behind that, and then I'll let Ian and Ben kind of get into that as well.
I mean, I know I'm a hater, but if you look at the standings right now, there are 7 teams that have at least 5 wins in the AFC that are not in the top 5. So after the top 5 seedings right now, there are 7 teams fighting for a number 6 and number 7 seed that have at least 5 wins. I think Buffalo is going to go on a roll here. And then that necessarily could bump the Steelers out. And then there's the Texans at 6-4 who have the tiebreaker over us. But I could see the Steelers rattling off some wins here. And, the more I talk about, the more I'm convincing myself maybe they don't make the playoffs. But, they got like the Colts are 5-5 and they suck. The Broncos are 5-5. They're actually playing pretty well right now. But the Bengals are 5-5. They don't have Burrow. The Raiders are 5-6. The Chargers are somehow 4-6. So
right.
I think how does Staley still have a job? I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, and no, you're absolutely right. If Mike Tomlin coached the Chargers, they'd be much better than 4-6. I just want to be Brandon Staley sucks, but
he's awful.
I could see. So long story short, I could see the Bills leapfrogging the Steelers to the 6. And then I could see Houston sucking a little bit because they're a young team and maybe losing a game they don't deserve. So I think the Steelers have a good shot to make the playoffs. I don't think it's a lock.
No,
but I'm going to say that they do sneak in.
The interesting thing, real quick, before I throw it to Ian, Buffalo, I think all 5 of their losses are AFC losses.
They are. They're 3-5 in the conference.
Yeah, which obviously, we're looking way ahead here, but man, could that play a part? Ian, do you agree that this team's going to make the playoffs, or are you not there yet?
Yeah. So I said last week on the show that I felt like they had to take 1 out of 2 in Ohio over the next 2 weeks, and they didn't do it this week against Cleveland. So they have an opportunity here against Cincinnati that if they can win this game, I'll feel pretty good about their playoff chances. If they lose this game to Cincinnati, I'll feel pretty bad about their playoff.
Yeah, Ian, I agree. If they lose this game, then I will say that they're definitely not going to make the playoffs because, like I said, Denver isn't very good, but they got that weak schedule.
Right,
but they're hot right now.
Yeah,
they got that weak schedule because of where they finished last year.
And I think, too, they're getting a Cleveland team coming to Denver who's had 2 real emotional games the last 2 weeks. You wonder if they're not catching Cleveland at a good time.
I mean, look what happened last week. Minnesota was the hot hand, and They played okay. So Kareem Jackson got suspended again for 4 games.
4 games.
And I actually don't agree he should have gotten suspended. I thought that was a fair play. I really did. The ball. You're on mute.
Who's on mute?
Ben
I
is.
was.
Oh.
He left his feet and lowered his head and clocked Dobbs in the chin. I mean,
he did not hit him in the chin. He hit him in the chest, and the ball was already out.
He hit him in the chin, man.
For Christ's sake, dude! You want to sit there and defend everything that the Steelers do, and you're gonna shit on Kareem Jackson.
But he left his feet, lowered his head, and hit a player. If for no other reason you discipline that hit because he's going to pull a Ryan Shazier and get himself paralyzed.
Yeah,
you disciplined that play going forward always.
He looked like he was.
Yeah, let me.
Sorry, I digress.
Nah, we're good. We're good. Ben, what do you think about the playoffs right now? As of right now,
I think they'll make the playoffs. I still am thinking 10-7. So.
Mm-hmm.
They'd go 4-3 from here on out, and they'd go into the playoffs. I still think they're a first round exit.
Yeah,
but they'll make the playoffs. I guess they'll be able to hang their hat on that.
Yeah.
Whatever. I don't think when there's a 7-team playoff field that it's really something you can thump your chest about. If you win your division, sure.
Yeah.
If you win your division, that's something. Going into the 7 seed, whatever, it's like being a 6-6 team in college and going to a bowl game.
Yeah, I was not a fan of adding the 7th team, but what do I know?
It's all about revenue, man. You know
absolutely. I want to address.
It'll be 8 teams.
I want to address 2 questions came up in the chat. Jen asked about a little bit about Eddie Faulkner. Eddie did have a little bit of an NFL career. He played. He was on the Steelers in 2001, and then had a little bit of time in Canada as well. I don't know that he actually ever saw the field in the NFL, to be honest with you.
Preseason only.
Yeah. And then he spent some time in college. He's been at Pitt. He's been at Wisconsin, NC State, Ball State. So he's moved around a little bit. So there's some experience there. A little bit as an offensive coordinator, not a ton. But I'm not in any position to say that he's gonna do well. He's not gonna do well. He's a professional guy. He's been around coaching a long time. So, and then the other thing that popped up here in the chat here just a second was. Burner asked, is Josh Allen's regression Ken Dorsey's fault? And I'm assuming he's asking that, and correct me if I'm wrong, Burner, but I'm assuming you're asking that because there's been a lot of discussion about Kenny Pickett's regression being the fault of Matt Canada. Scarps, what would you say to that? Josh Allen?
I don't think
Ken
Josh
Dorsey, Kenny Pickett, Matt Canada.
I don't think Josh Allen has regressed. He's leading the league in passing touchdowns. He's throwing more interceptions, but I don't think he has regressed. I think he's one of the top quarterbacks in this league. He forces turnovers, but he makes plays. I actually don't think it was actually Ken Dorsey at all. I think it was probably a head coach decision and an organizational decision to tell Josh Allen, hey, dude, you can't run the ball, constantly and continually to get hit like he does. Cause that dude gets smashed every game. And honestly, it reminds me a little bit of protecting Ben from himself. Like you have to protect him from himself. But look what happened. That sounded good. Look what happened. Look what happened. They fire their offensive coordinator and then they blew out a pretty good Jets team that has a good defense.
Good defense,
now relax. We're not saying that's going to happen this week in Cincinnati,
right.
But I'm saying that in my opinion, I think Ken Dorsey was a scapegoat. I think Dorsey is qualified, but I think that he was a scapegoat. But on the other hand, Canada should have never gotten the job, and he should have never even been back this season.
On both counts. Agree on both counts.
Yeah.
Dorsey's teams were top 7 in the league in yards and points, both of his seasons. The only thing he couldn't do was stop Josh Allen from turning the ball over.
Yeah.
And he got fired because Josh Allen couldn't stop turning the ball over.
Yeah.
And,
Like,
and Allen admitted that.
Was
Yeah.
it 2009 when Ben threw 23 interceptions?
No, that was 08. That was a Super Bowl year. I thought.
No, it wasn't
I don't think-
08.
I think it was 9 because the Steelers came back down to earth that year.
No,
I
it
want
was
to say
it was 06.
it was 06.
It was
Super
06,
Bowl
yeah.
hangover.
Okay.
Okay.
But, yep.
So he had a respectable number of touchdowns that year, but he was throwing a lot more picks. He was taking a lot more chances. And Josh Allen this season reminds me of that. And it's him.
Yeah.
It's not his coaching. It's him. He's feeling himself, and so he's trying to squeeze the ball into even tighter windows. And he's got the big arm. And when a guy's got a big arm and he's been successful taking chances, he's going to take chances.
And I mentioned this last week that my father-in-law's from Western New York. He's a Bills fan, and so we watch the Bills a lot. And I'll say this too: a lot of Josh Allen's throws have gone right through the mitts of his receivers.
Sure.
So you can never, not account for that. But
One other thing about the Bills this year, they are 2-5 in one-score games.
yeah,
And this was the first one-score game that we lost this year. So
crazy.
As Cowher would say, there's a fine line.
Yeah,
We're
absolutely.
now we're 5-1 in
And-
one-score games.
Yes.
Yeah. The other point I want to make about
Wow.
Eddie
6-1,
Faulkner.
right? Sorry,
yeah,
guys.
6-1. Yeah.
6-1.
The other point I want to make about Faulkner, though, I think the reason they gave him the play calling or the offensive coordinator title, because Mike Sullivan is going to do the play calling in game, but Faulkner is going to be the de facto coordinator, whatever, plan it out during the week. They've actually been running the ball pretty well the last few weeks.
I agree.
And the big criticism that Tomlin heard about in the press conference after the game too, was like, why did you go away from Jalen Warren specifically when he was averaging like 8 yards a carry? But even if you take out that 74-yarder, Warren he only had 9 carries the whole game. You take out the 74-yarder, he had 8 carries for 90 yards. Like, that's still insane, right? That, so the question was like, hey, did Warren like not get enough touches? And Tomlin is never going to throw a player or a coach under the bus in public. Yeah. But I think, the question's out there, and the fact that we've been running the ball well, I think speaks to the coaching of the running backs. And I think they're like, hey, we probably need to get the running backs more involved. So let's make this guy kind of the planner of the offense. That's my thought. But we're going to see a lot more running the game.
He's got experience as a tight ends coach, and obviously he's coaching running backs for the first time with the Steelers.
Mm-hmm.
And having a little bit of diversity as a position coach, I think, is what sold Tomlin on this. And he said he also really likes the way that he communicates, the way that he steadies the boat, so to speak.
Right.
So that was why he chose the guy. And then Mike Sullivan has had a couple of stops where he was a play caller in the NFL. One of them under less than ideal circumstances, quote unquote, where it was an interim position.
Yeah.
And he was a play caller. And he said, so it really just fits.
Ben, I know this is something that you talked about. Ian referred to it just a moment ago. The fact that on Sunday, the Steelers really not just went away from Jalen Warren, but it felt like there were a couple series where they went away from the run, period. Do you
feel most decisive one in particular?
Absolutely. Do you feel like, and I know this is kind of just guesswork, but do you feel that these two guys working together may have looked at that and said, yeah, we're just not, and Tomlin included, we're just not running the ball enough in certain situations? Ben?
I think that I think this change had more to do with the fact that the locker room was going, fuck this guy. Fuck this.
Oh, that to me, that's reason number one this happened.
We have been trying to do this. We didn't believe in it, but we went along with it for a long time because we were told we had to. Just keep working the system, have faith, And eventually they just revolted. It's the same thing that happened in Las Vegas. The players just called the shot and said, this is bullshit. We don't want to do this anymore.
Yeah.
So Tomlin's saying it was just a gut thing. I'm like, yeah, sure, Mike, whatever. Tomlin's never going to come out and say that about Matt Canada, because Tomlin's a professional and he knows that Canada's a professional and he's not trying to besmirch his name.
No.
For the future, getting other jobs. But that's what happened here. And do I think these two guys are going to go, we're running the ball well? Jaylen Warren, in the last month and a half, 6 weeks, has been the most effective offensive player in the NFL. I don't know if you guys are aware of that.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah, I saw that chart and I was like, oh yeah, let's give him another 8 carries or 9 carries.
It's like, why wouldn't you give this guy 15, 20 touches a game?
Because there is absolutely a pride factor that they took Najee Harris in the first round. And I absolutely
of which I want to address that, but go ahead.
Yeah.
No, I absolutely agree with you that this whole for years I've been banging the drum and saying, when they need a complimentary back for Najee, he can't do it all.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't expect that the number RB2 would be better than RB1, but he is, and he's better in the passing game, and he's better. He's
absolutely better in the passing game. Because he's better in pass protection,
and that's amazing. Fine. But
he's more valuable.
And at this point, you got to, Tomlin made, whoever made the tough decision today to do this and I'm stunned that they did it. There's only 7 games left. And I didn't think they would hit the reset button at this point, but, if you gotta play your best players, man, it's just that simple. And Jaylen Warren has been such a pleasant surprise, and he is better than Najee. And I think Najee is a good leader. I think he's a good soundbite, and I think that he might actually do better in a complimentary role than he is now.
Maybe there are 2 things that jump out at me watching the film. One, when Najee lined up in the backfield, they knew that he was getting the ball. They knew immediately. They keyed on him first. And second, Darnell Washington, who has been a machine all year long, just mashing guys. He had a horrible game as a run blocker. It was terrible.
Yep.
Guys were running across his face inside.
Yep.
And beating him off the snap count. And he knows the snap count, and they were beating him off the snap count.
Our tight ends are terrible.
Well,
just awful blockers right now.
Hayward's never been a good blocker ever.
No,
so that's not a new thing. All right, unless he's
not
out in space,
from there.
Unless he's got it out in space and he's got a running start, he's not a good run blocker. Okay, Washington has been a good run blocker, except for this week. Our 2 rookies, Joey Porter Jr. and Darnell Washington, got some lessons this week. They got schooled straight up. There were guys that beat them left and right like a drum. Yeah. It was like, damn. Amari Cooper kept doing that outside in move on JPJ, and he just kept biting on it. And then he'd try and grab him and get called for a penalty. It was like, dude, what are you doing?
Well, we'll get to Porter later.
Rolling along. Specifically Najee. The reason he was so frustrated was they were keying on him because they knew he was getting the ball, and they kind of knew where he was going.
Sure looked that way.
And on top of that, Darnell Washington, who's been great, was getting beat. And so guys were in the backfield before Najee could even do anything. And so he's averaging like 2.8 yards a carry or something.
Yeah.
Ridiculous. And Jaylen Warren was fucking unstoppable.
And
he was. And I'm not trying to say that Warren's not better than Najee at this point. What I am saying is the way the play calling was going and the way the run blocking was going in particular on Sunday really handicapped Najee. And, I've been the guy who said on this show, Najee needs to lose 25 pounds to get some burst again because his burst is shit.
Yeah,
but
there's no burst.
On Sunday, he didn't even have a chance. He didn't have a shot.
No. And to me, that speaks volumes of the fact that as much penetration as the Browns were getting, Warren was able to find the cracks, get positive yardage, whereas Najee couldn't do it.
No, Warren hits a hole like that, and he needs like 18 inches, man. And he's through it and gone.
Mm-hmm.
One cut down the field.
Yeah, and you know, if you asked the Browns, they wouldn't say this, but they were perfectly okay with letting Jaylen Warren do his thing because
until he scored a touchdown on him.
And if you look at that play, there was only one chance to stop him, and it was right at the line. And as soon as he cut up field, it's like okay, but
now it's a foot race, and you're not winning.
Yeah, and you're right. They knew exactly what Najee was doing.
Yeah.
They were absolutely not even remotely concerned about Kenny Pickett.
Nope.
And and I know, I mean, that's the best defense in the league, not taking anything away from it. But, if not for Jaylen Warren, we probably wouldn't have scored a touchdown. I mean,
I agree.
I agree.
And
I totally agree with that.
Although James Daniel played the best game I've seen him play this season. He was kicking the shit out of people. I don't know who pissed him off, but do that again next week because he was bashing people. Unfortunately, Mason Cole was not, which led some gaping holes, in that gap, in the A gap between the two of them. So,
Ian, do you? I think we all, in our discussions today, we all kind of agreed that losing the locker room was one of the major, if not the major, reasons why the decision to get rid of Canada happened today. What were Najee's comments kind of the clincher in your mind, or was it just the overall culmination of things in the last, say, 2 weeks?
I think it was a culmination of a lot. I think more so than Najee's comments. I mean, to me, Najee's comments were indicative of a lot of other things that have been going on behind the scenes that we don't see. But when Najee was kind of like, oh, it seems like the other team is keying on me and trying to shut me down. It's like, well, yeah, because they don't respect Kenny Pickett and know he's not going to throw the ball down the field. So they're going to put 10 guys in the box.
Yeah.
And they have no respect for the passing game. Right. And I understand Najee being frustrated, but I think more so than that, it was, I mean, there was those shots of like Kenny and Matt Canada sitting on the sideline, and like Canada's trying to talk to Kenny, and he's just like looking the other way.
They look like a jilted lover.
Yeah,
I mean, it's just like, don't talk to me.
And the other thing, let's not forget. Now, I'm gonna be like, what's his name? The guy on It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. It's got like the strings on the wall with the conspiracy theories, right?
Oh yeah.
I'm gonna draw some strings here.
Okay.
Deontay Johnson may or may not have punched Mitch Trubisky that got him benched in favor of Kenny Pickett. Deontay Johnson,
that was last year.
Yes, Deontay Johnson may or may not have had to be carried away from an assistant coach on the sidelines,
Matt Canada,
during the game that he had an altercation with and had to have Mike Tomlin have a conversation. Mitch Trubisky gets benched for Kenny Pickett. Matt Canada gets fired a day later. I'm just saying. Like,
are you suggesting that Deontay Johnson is running the organization?
Just maybe, the offense.
Yeah. Well, he is one of the highest paid players on the offense. But nevertheless, I think when you lose the room, right? And this is what we talked about. Like when you have that body language where Pickett's like, what the fuck are you talking about? When you've got Najee just being like, I don't fucking know what we're doing. When you've got Deontay Johnson having a physical altercation, like if I had to bet money, I would have bet it was George. I think I tweeted a few weeks ago when they said Canada was going to be on the sidelines. I said, how long until George Pickens tries to punch him on the sideline? And it was actually Deontay Johnson, maybe not. We don't know for sure it was Canada, but he got fired. So, but nevertheless, I think it's all that together. The body language was terrible, that they didn't believe in what they were doing. And we've said that before, that the guys didn't believe in what they were doing.
Exactly.
And there was no flexibility. I know we're going to talk about what we want to see later, but that's the biggest thing I want to see moving forward, is I want to see Kenny be given the ability to read the field and make audibles and be flexible with the line, and not just come out and have to run the damn play that's called.
I want to see the running backs have some flexibility as well. Like, you just need to go to the gap you were assigned to go to, because when that fucker's closed, it's closed. When there's a gaping hole over here to the left, just take it. Take the 3 or 4 or 5 cheap yards. Just take them. You won't have a blocker in front of you, so you'll be at the second level. You get 5 yards, then you can fall forward. Just take it. Fuck.
Speaking of creating holes and stuff, Dan Moore had a pretty awful game on Sunday. Now, to be fair, he's dealing with one of the better defenders in the NFL. I give you that, but he's
fucking horrible.
But he's had some decent success against Myles Garrett in the past.
When he's been hurt in the past,
he
has had success versus him. When Garrett is fully healthy, he has a game like that where Dan Moore basically says, "Oh, hey, you know what? Hey, I want to go ahead and endorse you for Defensive Player of the Year," because that's how fucking bad Dan Moore was on Sunday. It was awful. Garrett was literally dictating the game. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, Scarps.
I just say, when TJ Watt has a good game, do we give TJ Watt the credit, or do we talk about the shitty offensive lineman he played against? Because TJ Watt plays against some shitty offensive linemen too.
He has several times.
Like, I'm just like Myles Garrett is a really good football player. Like, and
TJ Watt's gotten double and triple teamed a lot this year, and tackled, and there's been no fucking call. So
you don't think that happens to Myles Garrett?
Fuck yes, it does, and he's managed to work his way through it. I gotta give him props.
Anyway,
he was a
saying,
man. He was a man among boys on Sunday. I gotta give him props.
And
he was.
The other thing too is, we'll never know this, but I think that Najee's comments and Deontay's outbursts were not just directed at Matt Canada, because the quarterback has played terribly over the past 4 or 5 games.
4 weeks.
But
this was absolutely the low point. Like, it's been going like this, and you really hope that with this change, it gets better.
And here's the interesting thing, and believe me, I hate Matt Canada, and I don't hate him as a person. He should have never gotten the job.
Such a hater.
He was here too long. But we're gonna find out over these next 7 games how big of a problem he really was.
Wow.
And
dude, no. I don't agree with that comment.
Oh, I thought you were talking to me. I was like, I'm
ahead,
always right. So
I think
Scarps has a point here, though, about Scarps has a point here about when I'm looking at my screen,
I know
on this side, but when I point, it's backwards. Right. No, Scarps has a point though, about we're going to find out over the next 7 games, what we're made of, what the players are made of, and what they can do, and then they're going to have to go out and figure out what they're doing in the offseason. The other thing I think it does, for better or worse, though, is it buys Kenny another year, because this has been the excuse all year from Sunshine Steelers Twitter that, it's not Kenny's fault, Matt Canada sucks, blah blah blah, and now it's gonna be, they got to bring in an offensive coordinator that can try and get the most out, and they probably will. Like, they invested first round picking him, and let's be honest, it's the Pittsburgh Steelers. They're not gonna cut bait on someone quickly, even if they know he can't play. Like,
given their history, they would not bench him until the middle of year 4.
Yeah, right. So, and maybe your
Scarps is going to love it.
Terrible. If
he's going to feel so vindicated.
If Pickett continues like he currently is through the middle of next year, I could see him getting benched by the middle of next year. But that being said, it's not a situation like where, Arizona drafted Josh Rosen in the first round and was like, this dude ain't it, and went and drafted Kyler Murray the next year. Like, the Steelers don't do that kind of stuff, for better or worse.
Right.
potentially worse in this case, but they just don't do that kind of stuff. They stick with their guys. Heck, how long did Jarvis Jones get before they were like, yeah, maybe this guy ain't it?
He got a while.
You know, their first
got
round
4
picks,
years.
yeah, their first round picks, they give the real benefit to. So we'll see what happens. But I think Ryan is right that, you know, these next 7 games are really going to show a lot more about whether it was the players executing or the plays being called.
Well,
the plays being called were shit too. I mean, how many times do we need to see that middle crossing route happen?
God.
I mean, okay. Listen, I'm gonna, and I agree with both of you, except that the middle crossing route actually did work in a red zone situation.
He got guys open and he wouldn't throw the
Kenny
ball.
just didn't throw it.
Yeah.
But to your point, real quickly, Mason Cole has been awful this season, and Dan Moore fucking sucks. I would almost just say, you know what? Let's just move Jones back over to left tackle, and let's go ahead and bench Dan Moore and bring Chooks back in, and, you know, fuck. I mean,
does that affect the running game, though?
Probably, but you just switch the sides. You just go, you know what? We got a really good guard over here in the left. Good tackle. Let's just run it this way now.
Yeah. Okay.
I find it funny though that whether Deontay Johnson punched Mitch Trubisky in the face or not, Deontay Johnson has expressed his displeasure. So has George Pickens. Minka Fitzpatrick was telling Terrell Austin how to run the fucking defense. And Chooks is the only one that got punished for
right.
for basically saying.
I mean, come on.
And here's what's funny: 2 weeks after Chooks says we might as well take a fucking knee because we're not going to win this game running these shitty ass plays. And 2 weeks later, they fire the fucking guy.
And look, I mean, Chooks. To me, that was just the ultimate out because Chooks needed to be replaced anyway. And he just gave Tomlin basically the key.
1,000,000%. And the better player and the better players starting. Yeah. However, right now Dan Moore is playing really bad.
Yes.
And we talked about putting your best players on the field. And yeah, I think Chooks would probably play better than Dan Moore on the right side, and Broderick goes back to his natural position.
Well,
yeah, I think I mentioned this on Slack today too, especially with Trey Hendrickson coming from the left side of the offense. You know, he is the Bengals' best pass rusher now. And after what happened with Myles Garrett last week, like I've said on this show before, Broderick Jones is their best tackle. He is better than Dan Moore at left and Chooks at right. He's better than both of them at their respective positions.
Yes.
He just needs to play. But I think with Trey Hendrickson.
And what's funny is, I'm sorry to cut you off.
Yeah.
What's funny about what you just said is you're absolutely correct, but that technically Broderick Jones is not very sound. He wins because he's a ridiculously gifted athlete at 340 pounds or whatever the fuck he is.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, no, but what I'm saying is I agree with your point, Ben, that they should move Broderick to left and put Chooks back at right tackle this week because they've got to deal with Hendrickson because they can't let him do what Myles Garrett did last week.
I didn't think about that, but you're absolutely. You are so fucking right. I was not putting that together, but you're right, Ian. Jesus.
I posted about this on Slack earlier, but yes, anyways, we're in agreement.
I don't always read this.
Slack was flying today. I couldn't.
There were a lot of fucking comments today, and I couldn't get to all of them.
I do want to talk a little, and I'm sure we'll come back to the offensive stuff, but I did want to talk a little bit about defense and Joey Porter
Rick
Jr.
has a really good idea. I like that.
And well, I know you do. And like I said, we'll come back to that. I've said from day one that Steelers fans are going to have to understand that Joey Porter Jr. is going to get nicked with calls. He was grabby coming out. Everybody knew it.
Yeah.
And
he slipped.
Yeah,
he's a ridiculously great athlete. Like he's even better than I expected.
Yes, and you are, as a fan, you're just going to have to live with it. Yep. And let's also not forget, Amari Cooper is one hell of an experienced wide receiver, and he put him in a blender a few times. And there's nothing to be ashamed about that. The kid's a rookie.
Let him learn on the job. It's fine.
Yeah,
he's really young at this point. It's all good. It's fine. I really love that hat, Scarps. I don't know. I don't care if it was $4.
It was actually free because I had my Cabela's Visa points. So
Oh,
Well, it's a
Even
Bass
better.
Pro Shops hat.
ladies and gentlemen,
You
make sure you got those
Cabela's Visa
Cabela's points with you to get a free Bass Pro Shops
Yeah.
hat.
No, I agree with Ben that I think, JPJ is going to take his lumps, but he's only going to get better by facing off against guys of Amari Cooper's.
And that's who they're locking him on the number ones right now too.
I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
So am I.
He's better man on man than anybody else we have right now.
and that's what. Yeah, go ahead.
Hey,
I was gonna say,
Aaron,
insane
quick
thing
question
was-
for you.
Okay, go ahead, Ben.
Aaron Gilbert, who's in the chat right now. So does Ohio State lose in the first round or the second round of the playoffs? Anyway, go on, Ian. What were you saying?
Okay. The insane thing was, in the second half, we played pretty good man-to-man defense, especially to his credit, Trenton Thompson on Njoku and JPJ manning up. But we were pretty good in man-to-man. And then for some unknown reason, Terrell Austin goes zone on the last drive, and we've sucked in zone all year. And they just picked us apart in the zone defense because when we play zone, our guys just drop into, they drop to a position and don't actually cover anyone. They're like, oh, we'll just let this guy stand right next to me and catch the ball, and then I'll tackle him. But so
We've been awful.
We suck in zone.
Yeah, so many openings on Sunday,
and he commented about it later, and he was like, "Look, there were a bunch of new people back there. I was trying to simplify the coverage because there were so many new people, and we had to do what we had to do." And I don't remember who the fuck it was. I think it was Mykal who was like, "No, they could have handled it. They could have handled it. You just need to call the coverage."
And hey, listen, you're right, Steel Dad earlier. Browns had a couple emotional wins, and good for their rookie quarterback. And you know what? Stefanski said, "Hey, you know what? We're not going to play to lose this game." And he was 4 of 4 on that final drive.
Absolutely.
But I would have loved to have seen what he would have done had we not changed our defensive philosophy on that final drive.
I agree.
Our defense is playing very well, and I'm going to be honest right now. There were a lot of people that said, "Well, this defense needs to play better." I mean, they gave up fucking 10 points until that final drive. They were playing very, very well.
They gave up 13 fucking points total. I mean, my God, they played great.
10 to 13. But people were like, "Oh, this defense needs." What more do you want from them? What more? What more can you ask? And
no, I 100% agree with you.
And believe me, I think this defense is overrated to a certain extent because if they didn't get turnovers, I don't even know where they'd be. But their defense has kept them in games.
Right.
They've given Kenny opportunities to have game-winning drives. And here's the wildest fucking thing. He could have had another one on Sunday, despite how shitty we played, how shitty he played. Jalen Ward was fine, but how shitty he played. And, I don't expect that to change. That's the other reason why I think they'll make the playoffs. I don't expect that to change, as we head into the –
Shut up, Aaron.
By the way, Aaron, you left out some M's in your post. I want to make two comments defensively. I thought, and what I did see a little bit of the tape. I didn't have a ton of time, but I saw a little bit of it. And both Mykal Walker and Trenton Thompson should be commended. I thought for two guys that basically were in street clothes.
Trenton Thompson was fucking awesome.
I thought they both
got to give that
played
guy
well.
props.
Dude,
Yeah,
if that goddamn Cleveland sun wasn't at the right angle at the right time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't mean Joe Walsh is the Cleveland sun. I don't mean Joe Walsh. Funk49 hashtag.
All right.
And I would also like to comment. I know some people were asking this on the Twitters today. Terrell Austin suddenly has a defense that is I think in the top 10.
They're like top 12 the last 4 games.
Okay, I thought it climbed maybe, but I don't think he's on the hot seat as much as he was several weeks ago. I'm not saying
there have been crunch moments that he's fucked up, as Ian pointed out.
Yeah,
this week in crunch time, the Steelers shit the bed. Okay, our offensive coordinator, who's been fired, passed the ball 3 straight times when we were averaging 4.8 yards per attempt, and 4.4 yards per pass play. That's how fucking bad it was going.
Mm-hmm.
And he was like, yeah, you know what? It's crunch time. We need 35 yards. Let's throw the ball. What the fuck is wrong with you?
Okay, I know.
And you're averaging 6.6 yards per carry.
So even when he says, "Hey Kenny, go win this fucking game for us," it's like that's what I'm saying. Like, I'm interested to see how this all unfolds now that Canada's gone, because he can no longer be the scapegoat in this situation.
My thing again in that situation is Canada is on the sideline. He's talking to Kenny.
Mhm.
He's got a sense for what's going on, where Kenny's head is, and read the fucking room. This kid is not feeling it today. He's not. He's not feeling what you're putting out there. He's not feeling himself. He's not confident in what he can do. Don't put the ball in his fucking hands. Give the ball to Jaylen Warren. How fucking simple was that? How fucking simple was that moment to navigate?
How pathetic is it that you're not gonna like you? What good is Kenny Pickett then? Like what?
Okay.
You know what?
Do you think?
I don't think that Kenny will ever be a top 20 quarterback ever in his career.
So
right?
so let me throw this out. If they stick to the same plan, and it's sideline, dump off to running backs, they don't use the middle of the field. Are we going to start pointing at Tomlin, Ian, as the one who's dictating the way Kenny Pickett's playing, and maybe it wasn't Matt Canada?
I don't know if it's yes and no. Tomlin is extremely turnover averse, and we've known that for years. But at the same time, you got to make some throws to try and win the game, and you got to try and push the ball a little bit, and you can't just check it down every time. I mean, our buddy Derek, who I haven't seen him in the chat tonight, he drops by sometimes, but Steelers DB on Twitter.
Fantastic job.
He mentioned this week that when Kenny's stats this year and Mason Rudolph's stats from 2019 are very similar, and that Mason Rudolph got benched halfway through the Week 12 game in 2019 for Duck Hodges, and I kind of supplemented that by saying that Week 12 game was also in Cincinnati. Following a loss to Cleveland. So after they hadn't performed in the first half. So I'm not saying Kenny Pickett's going to get benched.
What do we have behind Kenny?
Hold on. Let him finish his point.
My point is that was what Mason was doing back then. Mason was playing scared. Mason was captain check down. Everything was just going underneath. And at some point, they went to Duck Hodges then because they wanted someone that was going to be a little bit aggressive. They, for better or worse, we talked about in the show, he had moxie. He went for it. He didn't have the arm strength. He didn't have the ability, but he went for it. And, there was something there. And I think, earlier in his career, and even if you go back to his college tape, Kenny was willing to push the ball down the field. Kenny was aggressive and tried to make plays with the ball. I really think they've coached it out of him. And how much of that is Tomlin versus how much of it was Canada?
We're going to find out.
I think we're going to find out. And that gets back to Scarp's point.
I don't think we are. And here's why. I don't think that Pickett is comfortable throwing the ball over the middle of the field. As Scarps has pointed out many times on this fucking show, I don't think
this is a beautiful show. Come on. Language.
Okay, on this beautiful show, as Scarps has pointed out many times, I don't think he's comfortable throwing the ball over the middle of the field, in particular, a slant route.
He can't throw a slant route. No.
Those breaking inside routes, he's not fond of.
Nope.
He's not. Now, you give him a post route on the inside, he can throw that, no problem. You give him a go route on the inside, he can probably throw that, no problem. But for whatever reason, he does not like slant routes going inside. Whatever.
I think he just struggles to throw them. He's behind, he's ahead, he's high. He struggles.
Well, first of all, his mechanics are not consistent. No, especially in this last game. This last game, his footwork was shit. Oh my God, it was so bad. And you're just like, dude, you're an NFL quarterback. What the fuck is going on?
What
are you doing?
I haven't seen his QB coach and Tony with an R. He was all on him all summer long, and I haven't seen anything. Huh?
Tony with an R, whatever.
Tony, I can't.
At any rate,
it's Italian.
Yeah,
but the point I was going to before when Ian was talking was, what do they have behind Kenny that's better than Kenny? They don't have shit. You got Mitch, who will throw more touchdowns, but he will also throw an equal number of picks.
Mm-hmm.
He will.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and then you got Mason, who basically is kind of Kenny-esque. He's going to hold the ball. He's got lead feet in the pocket. He can't feel a pass rush. He's going to throw the check down. I don't know. Doesn't have any faith in his own ability. Fuck that guy too. So we have nothing behind Kenny that's better than Kenny. Nothing. It's less than inspiring. Let's just put it that way. The quarterback room needs completely fucking revamped.
We have three guys who rank probably between 31st and 38th in the league in the quarter. If you rank the quarterbacks,
I'm going to go with 31st and 45th.
Okay. Nevertheless, it's a
Wow.
bunch of mid guys, right? All of our quarterbacks are mid.
That's what the kids say these days.
Yes.
Is that what the kids say when they call
mid.
when they call Sparks a hater?
Yeah. The one final point I wanted to make though on Kenny was that if we change coordinators, if we change play call, like we'll be able to see when we watch the film after the games and even watching the games if the play calls change, right? If they don't keep running the same crossing route on 3rd and longs, if they don't keep running the same play action boot with the crossers, like they run the same 3 plays. If they start changing it up a little bit and run more plays and Kenny keeps taking the checkdowns and doesn't throw to open guys, then it's definitely Kenny, and it wasn't necessarily on the play calling.
Mm-hmm.
If Kenny starts pushing the ball, then even if he throws a couple picks, like I'm willing to live with him throwing a couple picks if it means we're pushing the ball down the field, because that's going to open things up for the running game too. Like you can't just keep checking things down all the time.
That's a great point. The fact that our running game has been pretty decent in recent weeks, and the fact that we never even challenge down the field. We're basically 9-man boxes all the time. And still
10
finding,
against Green Bay, yeah.
Still finding ways to run the ball. So
Noah got what I've put in the chat. I appreciate that. Steelers Freak talked about The Sopranos, and I
see what you did there.
I've referenced Paulie Walnuts in the Pine Barrens episode, which is literally not only probably the best episode of The Sopranos, but the best episode of television in history. It's the fucking funniest thing I'm telling. If you've never seen The Sopranos, I beg you to watch it. But the Pine Barrens episode specifically is fucking hilarious. Anyway,
that'll be the Sopranos podcast featuring Ryan Scarpino coming up Wednesdays at 7.
I mean, Sopranos was a really good series, but The Wire was better. You got to admit. Until the last season. The last season was not good. But other than that, The Wire was the greatest television
how the hell did we start talking about television?
Who the fuck is E&M? Oh, that's you, you dick.
Hey, fuck you, Ian.
I didn't think of you as that. No, I'm fucking with you. I don't know where we're going with here. The thing is though, when you're a first round quarterback, there are certain expectations that come with it. Okay. Yes. Mitch was also a first rounder, number 2 overall. Mason, even though Kevin Colbert said he had a first round grade on him, was not a first rounder. He was a 3rd rounder. Mm-hmm. And I guess I look at all of this and we're never gonna agree on this, but I look at the draft picks they've made over the past couple years and sit here and think that could they be in the same position they're at right now with Mitch or Mason, but with a better future in certain positions? And I would say yes.
Yeah.
And whether that's Creed Humphrey,
and we'd lose a bunch of
Tyler
games,
Linderbaum,
but
or whatever.
Well, and we could have taken Creed Humphrey instead of
twice.
Muth.
Twice.
We could have taken him in front of instead of Muth, and he's an all-pro center.
Yeah.
I mean, for fuck's sake.
Yeah.
And Freiermuth is about to be a free agent, and well,
I think that's suddenly become a position that is of need. I like Darnell Washington. I think he's a good blocker.
did you
Sans
see
what
him
he
catch
did
the ball on Sunday?
Yeah.
Did you see him? It was like me catching a little tiny Nerf.
Yeah.
The
He
ball
just
in my
snatched
hand.
it out of the air.
He's like, this thing, and I'm just gonna hold it. And then he fell forward and got 4 yards on the fall forward.
He looked like a fucking giant, like that.
He is fucking immense.
And I
think it was Freak before Steelers Freak who suggested that they just go ahead and put Washington at right tackle and Jones at left tackle and just try and see what happens.
Well, and
fuck
that's
it.
You beat that drum since before the draft.
Well, I think that he
it's
will
possible.
eventually be a tackle. I think that, and I think he should, because he's a freakish athlete for somebody who's that big. Yeah. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. I also think though that Herbig, the outside linebacker, should be playing inside. They should make him a pass coverage linebacker. They should go, dude, you're going to be Chad Brown. You're going to play both sides, both positions, okay? We're going to put you inside in these positions in dime, and you're going to be a guy who just plays zone and runs to the ball. That's what you're going to do. You're going to line up over here in the flat, and then when the ball's thrown, you're going to run to it. That's it.
Well, I did want to bring up, too, that they have brought Myles Jack out of retirement. He's been brought in.
Did you hear what Tomlin said about him today?
I did. Nothing.
He said, this is a guy who has
and
familiarity with us.
Yeah.
But he's here in a practice squad capacity, so I won't go too much into that. I won't really expand upon that at all.
Now, we had not signed Blake Martinez correctly.
We are
correct in
going
saying that?
to. We're
until
going to
right
sign
until
him
after the presser
tomorrow, and it's because he's on a practice squad now.
Right.
So in order to poach him, you have to sign him to the active roster for at least 3 weeks.
3 weeks.
So I understand we need bodies. I really do. I totally get that.
Yeah.
But we signed a guy that retired in Myles Jack, and he played for us last year, and he had Blutarski ×2. He had 0 sacks, 0 forced fumbles, 0 fumble recoveries. And then we signed another guy that was also retired, didn't play for us, but he scammed people out of expensive Pokemon cards. Like, we are a fucking circus. Like this is like, and the worst part about it was that for all the, the hesitations and reservations we had about Cole Holcomb and Quan Alexander and all these guys, those guys were actually playing pretty fucking good this year. Like, considering rest.
Better as each game went,
and
I thought.
And I look at this as okay, the defense is opportunistic, but our inside linebacker core after Landon Roberts is not good. They obviously don't trust Mark Robinson, and I wouldn't be surprised if Mark Robinson
what's up with that?
Is a cut.
Yeah,
there's something up there.
The word I get.
They've listed Mykal Thomas as the guy.
Michael Walker.
I'm sorry, Mykal Walker as the guy, as the starter now.
My understanding is from the folks I talk to is with Robinson. Number one, it's what we all know. He's a liability in pass coverage. Number two.
Did you see him when he had to play a lot 2 weeks ago?
Yes.
When he was playing man, he was good. When he's playing in zone, he's not.
No, the second thing is that he struggles understanding what his assignment is. And with Mike Tomlin, you aren't seeing the field if you don't know what you're doing.
Yeah.
And that's
Can we
the one?
Listen,
go ahead, Ryan. No, go ahead, Ryan. I've talked more than you. Go. You talk.
No, shut up. Shh. You go ahead.
So Ian
mine has
said
nothing
they
to do
brought
with the game.
Jack off the couch.
All right. I want to say point out something Steelers Freak said over here in the chat. I'm actually pointing in the right direction about needing insurance for the green dot. That Myles Jack was the guy who made the defensive calls last year. And I was at the game 2 weeks ago against Green Bay, and Mark was there too, when
incredibly obvious.
It was really obvious after Quan Alexander went down that they struggled to get lined up on defense, and they had to spend 2 timeouts this game against Cleveland because they either had too many guys on the field or they couldn't get lined up correctly. Getting the play call in, and on defense is so much, it's harder than on offense. So I think the reason to sign Myles Jack is that he is
Sorry.
he is, that's hilarious. That's
well played,
hilarious. Freak. Okay. So at any rate, the reason to sign Myles Jack is to help get that play call in and get guys lined up in the right position, regardless of whether or not he was on his couch last week. Like, just getting somebody who knows the defense and can relay the play calls and get guys lined up has tremendous value.
Yeah, there's something to be said for that. I don't deny that at all. And I agree, Freak. I'm kind of done with Presley Harvin. There's just not enough consistency. When you need a big punt from this guy, it rarely happens.
The Steelers punters and cold weather. What the fuck?
Yeah, that's funny you say that, because I mean Barry went through it for years, and
all of them.
The
last couple of at least the last 15 years. It's like, what the fuck? Like, you can punt, but as soon as it gets cold, you're kicking 23-yarders. What the hell is going on?
Yeah, I don't get it.
They look amazing in September, and then it gets cold, and they're all of a sudden they're like, it might as well be me punting, because what the fuck?
Shoot, at this point maybe it is.
Just saying.
I mean, I'm thinking of auditioning myself. My God. It's just
Ryan had a point to make.
No, I was just saying. I have a couple points. We talked about Mark Robinson earlier, that he was good in man, but he wasn't good in zone. And I sat there and think, like, zone is easier. You just got to get to your landmark, right? You know what I mean? Like,
you would think. But in man, if he has one guy he's got to cover, he can stay with him. And you're dude, how are you bad in zone? How does this?
I remember one time, Ray Horton was our defensive backs coach, and LeBeau was the coordinator, and they were teaching rookies about zone, and they were talking about, just get to your landmark. Here's where your landmark is. Get to your landmark, and then go from there. And I remember thinking that it was a really good way of explaining it. But anyway,
right.
My second point is we got the Smiths. We got the special musical guest on Saturday Night Live. Then we got the Smiths. We got Matt Smith. We got Tom Smith. This is great. Keep it coming. We get Robert Smith from The Cure, and the Minnesota Vikings.
One day I'm in love. The Bengals this week, obviously they're dealing with their own quarterback issues. They have no Joe Burrow. They're not very good in the running game. I thought they were a little bit better than that.
They still have Mixon, though, and you never know.
They do, and he's going
to break one off. You just never know.
Right. And so, and look, you've still got talented wide receivers.
Ridiculously talented wide receivers. Their
defense been up and down. Can we go into Cincy and win? Of course. It's the NFL. Of course you can. Rookie quarterback again. I don't.
Rookie. No.
What's that?
Jake Browning's not a rookie.
Well, no, I'm sorry, not a rookie, but this will be his first start, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's been around for a little while. I think 2019 he was an undrafted free agent, kind of bounced around as a backup, but he's thrown 10 career passes or something.
Yeah, he came from Washington. He led them to the college football playoff, and So he, solid young man, but I mean, I don't think this is anything we should be overly concerned with. But do they take a page out of what Cleveland did last week and just throw it underneath the whole game?
Of course.
It seems
Of
to
course.
me.
I mean,
right.
and don't get me wrong. That's not a terrible thing for our defense. Like, if they're not going to test us deep and they're just going to keep throwing it short within 2 seconds every single play, that puts our offense in a pretty good position to win the game. But our offense actually has to fucking produce.
Yeah.
They got to produce. And if they can't, we won't win.
I think our chances of scoring will be better against this defense. But that said, I just don't know what to expect from our offense, especially with a new offensive coordinator.
Ian, who's officiating this game? And how awful is he?
Oh, let me look that up.
Yeah, it wasn't available yet today.
Yeah, I was going to say, we're recording on Tuesday this week.
Right.
Usually by Thursday, that's available.
Yeah, Football Zebras usually has it up.
Angry officiating fan.
Hey, every time I see one of our fans or somebody else on Twitter start to complain about the officials, I'm like, welcome to my world. You all understand me. You're all welcome in the world of
except that you remember shit from like 12 years ago. You're like, yeah, he was the guy who officiated this game.
Ben, see, you and I have
reached. How still luck it is, but I mean, come on.
You and I have reached that age, Ben, where we can't remember shit.
Well, I can't remember shit from 2 weeks ago.
Right. Ian and Scarps are still at the age where they can literally remember everything, and eventually it'll catch up to them. It will. It will.
One thing I want to say about this week is that this Steelers are definitely fortunate that Joe Burrow is not playing this game. Jake Browning is technically a first-year player. He's not a rookie,
right?
But he's only 15 days older than Kenny Pickett, and he's 27. So, no, I'm just teasing. That's not true. But the point is, Jake Browning doesn't have a lot of experience, but I will say that they have a lot of experience overall on offense.
I'm really excited that the chat let me put that comment in.
Their offensive line is playing better. Joe Mixon is really good. They got, I'm going to sound like Tomlin here, but they got a variety of eligibles. Jamar Chase.
Jamar Chase is ridiculous. I mean, my God.
T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd, Irv Smith Jr., the guitar player for Cinderella, Trenton Irwin. The guy from Princeton, I don't even know his name.
Well, you went a long road home for that one, Scott.
But they got Drew. I think Drew Sample's still their tight end. Anyway, point is, Zach Taylor is an offensive-minded coach, as is Kevin Stefanski is. So I expect Zach Taylor to put together a nice game plan. And then on defense, overall, they're not that great, but they have familiarity. It is an AFC North game. You got Mike Hilton. You got some young guys. Yeah. I don't know what their injury report's going to look like. Sam Hubbard didn't play, but Trey Hendrickson really good, and then Jermaine Pratt is Logan Wilson. Jermaine
always
Pratt
gives us problems.
And Pratt. Jermaine, and here's what I'm concerned about. Jermaine Pratt last year said that we knew what plays they were going to run.
Mm-hmm.
And Matt Canada the following week had some bullshit answer that was like, "Oh, well, I've known him since he was in high school." So I don't remember that. Do you remember that? Like it was
exactly.
like some weird.
What the hell does that have to do with it?
Some weird thing. And here's what I'm looking for out of this offense without Matt Canada. Here's what I'm looking for.
Okay, this is a good segue here for me. Go ahead.
2 things. First of all, is in the 10 games this year, the Steelers have only had a third down conversion rate of 40% or better 4 times. They need to convert on third down. They need to extend drives. It can't just be 3 and out or 6 and out. It has to be longer drives, which helps time of possession. And only twice this year did the Steelers control time of possession, and their control was 30-03
Oh God.
and 30-33. So baby steps.
Yeah.
But I also want to be fair to the Bengals because they're not the same Bungles. They have faced adversity over the past couple years. And by the way, the Steelers, a much better Steelers team, lost to a much worse Bengals team led by Ryan Finley in 2020.
Yes. That happened, as the kids say. Ian, our resident official hater, has some news on this week's officiating crew.
We do. So the official for this week's game. What are you laughing at, Ben?
Your little Landry.
Landry Jones.
I just gagged at the 2 Chainz reference.
Oh yeah, back when I had my own blog before you assholes let me
Fuck
join
you, Johnny.
Guys, before Mark was like, here's a good guy to add to our show. Yeah, back when I blogged on my own, that was my reference for Landry. At any rate, the official for this week is Brad Rogers. And the last time Brad Rogers officiated a Steelers game was October 2nd, 2022 against the New York Jets when Mitch Trubisky got benched for Kenny Pickett. So now we get him after Matt Canada's been fired. So that brings the whole Deontay
all coming full circle.
There we go.
It's all coming full circle, baby.
All right.
So does that mean Deontay Johnson's going to punch Trubisky again?
Maybe. The thing I'll say about Rodgers, his crews call a lot of penalties. They're above average. They've been above average pretty much every year he's a referee. So expect a lot of penalties.
Consistent, fine.
Yeah. Unlike
as long as they're
Sunday.
consistent. The Crew Sunday was shitty.
Yeah, like 6-1 advantage or something like that at one point. Scarps, got a comment?
Scarps,
no,
I think you're muted.
Scarps does not have a
I waived my right to comment.
Oh, all right, very good. Bring in some legal proceedings into the show. Very good. Let's go to some predictions for this week.
I knew they were going there.
Ian, let's start with you. What do you have for this weekend's game as the Steelers will travel to Paycor Stadium in Cincinnati?
Paycor?
Oh, I'm sorry. I mean, Ohio.
Well,
Escalooser.
Yes. Yeah. What the hell is Paycor? Is that like a Bitcoin thing? All right, we'll just call it Bitcoin Stadium. All right. So they're going to Bitcoin Stadium. in arguably the second worst city in the United States. And let me see, what's the
third worst? I mean, like Akron, then Cleveland,
Toledo, right. Dayton.
Let's not forget that Baltimore exists too.
Bryan, Ohio.
Okay.
Bad, but I mean, Ohio is like way worse.
Yeah. Okay.
And Aaron lives there, which makes it even worse.
Bryan's terrible. Nothing but assholes in that town.
Yeah, wherever that is. I hate that place.
The over-under for this game is 34.5, which is basically
it's 1.5 better than last
34.5?
34.5, yeah. So that's
the under.
20 to 14 would be a
take the under.
Yeah. Here's the thing. So we talked about like if the Bengals throw it underneath and all that. But the Bengals actually have receivers that can make plays with the balls in their hand. Like you can throw the ball out to Jamar Chase and he can just run 60 yards with it.
Yeah.
T. Higgins is good. Tyler Boyd is good. The thing we have to watch out for though is with backup quarterbacks, and we've seen this in the past. You see this a lot with backup quarterbacks. They're more comfortable throwing to the third, fourth, and fifth receivers on the depth chart than they are to the number 1, number 2 guys, because those are the guys they practice with all the time.
Absolutely. Great point.
So when Browning came in that game, the Bengals' last game was against
Bills.
The Ravens.
No, Ravens,
yeah.
The Rats.
He was throwing to like not Chase, Higgins, and Boyd. He was throwing to was it Tyler Irvin and whoever else, the Princeton kid, and
The drummer,
It's
Trent
Irwin.
Trenton Irwin, whatever. I was close enough. Irwin.
Scarps
guitar-
ended.
You said
Yeah,
his last name correctly. It's fine.
Yeah, I was close
You said-
enough.
You said Irvin.
And I
Mykal
said,
Irvin?
It's
no,
close enough.
I don't know. Whatever.
It's Irv Smith Jr. Get it right. I'm just teasing.
Washington Irving?
No, Irv Smith Jr. was a tight end for the Vikings.
Who's the current tight end for the Bengals?
Yeah, that was Irv Smith Sr. This is
Okay.
Irv Smith Jr. Yeah.
Oh, he's okay. At any rate, all right.
Washington Irving. What you said?
I just said.
All right. At any rate, he's probably,
Sleepy Hollow. Shut up, Ryan.
this has gone off the rails.
For once.
For once, right. You're just joining us. This is usually what happens after several bourbons and a few beers.
I was going
Right
to say it only
about
took
the-
us 75 minutes worth of show celebrating Matt Canada getting shit canned.
Celebration,
so-
bitches.
Yeah.
It is.
All right. So I'm gonna say Steelers 17, Bengals 13.
Jesus Christ.
okay.
Was that like 5 minutes of speech before?
Yeah,
we
yeah,
came
that was
Yeah.
that was
Prediction?
quite a lead in there.
Yeah, it went off the rails, so I just got to
Yeah,
it.
that's true,
I
it
figured
did.
that was enough.
It did.
introduction,
You're
so.
correct, Ian.
Steelers
Yeah.
17, Bengals 13.
All right.
We scored
7
2 touchdowns, so people are like, "Oh, we scored 2 touchdowns," but the Bengals defense, other than Trey
Bengals.
Hendrickson and the 2 inside linebackers, isn't great. I mean, we should be able to move the ball against them. We should be able to run the ball. And really, as long as we don't turn the ball over, there's no reason we shouldn't win this game. This is a very winnable game. And from what I saw out of Browning against the Ravens, he's going to hold on to the ball and second guess himself. And like, there's going to be time for Watt and Highsmith to get there. Last week against the Browns, DTR got the ball out real quick.
Yeah, it was less than 2 seconds.
Yeah, and there
Well, it was
really just wasn't
5 or something.
there wasn't time for those guys to get there. But
Nope.
I think Browning, if we can play man on the outside and at least try and take away his first look, I think there's going to be time for those guys to get there.
All right, so we got Ian in the book, Steelers over the Bengals. Ben, what do you got?
Ian, Scarps, did you write that down or no? Is that a no?
He's diligently writing right now.
Oh, he's muted again. All right, so I'm
my
gonna
thumb.
go. I'm gonna go.
You're good, Scarps.
I'm gonna go. Steelers. I'm actually gonna go Steelers. I'm gonna be a little bit optimistic here.
Oh boy.
Optimistic-ish. Steelers 23, Bengals 16.
Okay. Another 1-score game for the Men in Black. Scarps, what do you got?
I got the Skyline Chili Bengals 20-17 in overtime.
Oh,
Whoa. Whoa.
fuck you
Okay.
too.
Last week, I went against my gut. I really felt like Cleveland was going to win, but I had this. I just wanted the Steelers to win so badly. And this week, my gut tells me that the Bengals are going to win. So therefore,
You too, Mark.
yeah, well, so this week I'm going to go with the Steelers. I'm going to go 20-14. And no, that does not mean I think the Bengals will score 2 touchdowns. It could just be an odd way of getting to 14. But I'm going to go 20-14. I think the Steelers will do enough, and they got to have it, as we talked about. Ian made the point last week. Got to get 1 out of 2 in Ohio, and I think we will. And
Wait, you said the Bengals were going to win.
no, I said my gut tells me the Bengals are going to win, but I'm going to take the Steelers 20-14.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, your
And-
gut is obviously shitting itself, but it's fine. whatever.
Well, which happens
you got a little bit of
several times
diarrhea.
a day. Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm glad everybody's here because we've got a few extra listeners and viewers.
Why are
in
you
today.
people so drunk tonight? Why? Why?
Geez, I don't know. Looking
Johnny, fuck you.
and
again.
Casey needs a minute, and he'll
oh,
be back.
all
Does that
right.
work?
Well,
Does that
the
work?
late great
Scarves
Casey
has to poop.
Kasem still needs a
I
minute. If you're new to the show, we end the show every week with the late, great Casey Kasem reading some mail from Steelers fan Ryan. And at the current moment, it looks as though Casey might be still in the John.
Pooping.
Yeah, and so America's Top 40 is currently delayed just for a second. But in the meantime, I want to wish everybody a very happy and safe Thanksgiving. Enjoy time with family and friends, and enjoy the football, the movies, the food, the family bickering, all of the wonderful things that go on at Thanksgiving.
Ignoring the family bickering and focusing on the football is America's pastime.
And you know what? This might have to go on a T-shirt. I'm not drunk. The podcast is.
Fuck you, Johnny.
Johnny.
That's total bullshit. Fuck you, Johnny. You're an asshole.
No, Johnny just nailed it right
Johnny
there.
is drunk. I know him. I know him in real life, and he is drunk. Believe me.
Damn, George calling me chicken shit. Cheers. Happy Thanksgiving.
Yeah, turkey.
George.
Oh, Ohio State U of M prediction. I'll give you a prediction, but let me see. I'm waiting for a sign, Aaron.
I'm rooting for the meteor, Aaron.
Yeah, so am I. I just want Harbaugh to go away. Ladies and gentlemen, it's now time for the late, great Mr. Casey Kasem
That was a really fast poop.
Letters from Ryan.
Casey's Coast to Coast, American Top 40. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the week that was November 21st, 1978. Our favorite correspondent, Ryan, is once again back with us this week, and he writes, Dear Casey, we're caught in a trap. I can't walk out because I love you too much, Kenny. We can't go on together with suspicious minds, and we can't build our dreams on 106 yards and no touchdowns. That's, of course, a parody of Elvis Presley's Suspicious Minds. Much like Elvis, Pickett gets the female fans going. Network producers even debated only showing Pickett's highlights from the waist up. But if they did that, you wouldn't be able to see him spin right into pressure. Woo! Also, much like Elvis, Pickett is on his way to burning out and disappearing. At this point, Pickett should just take 100 uppers and downers, make a peanut butter and nana sandwich, and pass out on the toilet. But wait, there's more. Earlier today, the Steelers fired offensive coordinator Matt Canada, which gives Pickett a lifeline. Whether Pickett will use his 50-50, ask the audience, or phone a friend remains to be seen. Hey, Casey, I have a question for you. Does Kenny Pickett A, suck, B, blow, C, have tiny hands, or D, all the above? Casey, Is that your final answer? Well, Ryan, let me interrupt you real quick. Just so you know, I did not host Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. This is American Top 40. Please seek help immediately. Casey, before the Browns lost, Steelers defensive end Cam Hayward talked about the Steelers winning games not being about smoke and mirrors. He even said, screw you, if you believe that's how they've won. Well, Cam, I respect your stance, but I don't know if I trust the guy that's only ever won one playoff game. I'd ask TJ for his take, but he's never won a playoff game. Cam, what's the opposite of screw you? I believe it's I told you so. Speaking of I told you so, Kenny Pickett sucks. He's not who you think he is. I've been saying that since before he was drafted. I hate to say I told you so, but I told you so.
You're lying.
But I told you so. However, now that Matt Canada has been fired, it's on Pickett to prove his doubters wrong. Kenny, if you're listening, I just want you to know that I forgive you, and I'm ready to take that chance again. Well, Ryan, you're in for a treat. Staying at number 11 this week, here's Barry Manilow with the title track "The Foul Play," starring Goldie Hawn and Chevy Chase. Here's Ready to Take a Chance Again.
Jesus.
Oh, well
Wow.
done, Casey. As
That
always.
is awful. It's so bad. It's
What
good.
the hell are we ever going to do if we get another great team again? Scarps isn't going to have to do. Kenny Pickett.
We'll figure some shit out.
Oh boy, that is fantastic.
We'll just roll with some. I don't know.
Just roll with it. Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much.
All right.
That's, of course, Steve Winwood off his album Back in the High Life Again with Roll With It. But
Bro,
love some Steve Winwood. Yeah. Anyway, make sure you check out the site, everybody. It's steelcityblitz.com. Check us out on Twitter, SC Blitz, at Facebook and Instagram at Steel City Blitz, and all those other wonderful social media sites. Lots of stuff up there. I think I posted 3 articles today, mostly about Matt Canada and moving on from him. So I was busy for once. That's crazy. In any case, thanks to these guys. Thank you to all of our listeners and viewers, and very much appreciate it. And hope everybody has a great Thanksgiving. And for these guys, I'm signing off. And go Steelers.
Ravens suck.
Happy Turkey
you,
Day,
Sonny.
Yins.